Unlock the 6, and the 1 vanishes, and tie the knots in sequence. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine you are holding a smooth, soft, silk scarf. For some reason, you tie 6 consecutive knots in it. Now, that scarf is constricted, distorted, and barely recognizable. You want to restore it to its original state. But looking at this tangled mess, you have no idea where to start. This isn't a craft lesson. This is a famous experiment performed by the Buddha in Volume 5 of the Shurangama Sutra. He conducted it to help Ananda and all sentient beings understand why we are trapped in samsara war and how we can achieve liberation. Today, our theme is 6 unlocked, 1 vanished, untying the knots in sequence. We will follow the Buddha's movements to see how he used a flower cloth for asra to dismantle the deepest shackles of our physical and mental world and find the only path to debugging our existence. Chapter 1, Ananda's Confusion. How were the knots tied? After hearing the Buddha describe the mysterious nature of the self, Ananda had a very practical doubt. He said, "Well-honored one, although I have heard the truths you've taught and feel my mind has been opened, I am still not clear. What does it mean for 6 to be unlocked and 1 to vanish? If my life is tied in knots, what exactly is the sequence lunchi for untying them?" This is the question we all ask when facing spiritual practice or life's problems. I understand the theory, but what do I actually do? What is the first step? The Buddha didn't give a dry lecture. He adjusted his robes on the lion seat, then took a flower cloth offered by a heavenly being from the table. Then, before the assembly, he tied a knot in the cloth. The Buddha asked Ananda, "What is this called?" Ananda replied, "It is called a knot." The Buddha then folded the cloth and tied a second knot, then a third, a fourth, until there were 6 knots in total. Each time the Buddha asked, the assembly answered in unison, "That is also called a knot." Then, the Buddha posed a question that gave everyone pause. "Ananda, there is only 1 cloth here. Why did you call it a knot when I tied the first one, and still call them knots when I tied the second and third?" Chapter 2, Same fabric, different knots. Is the difference you see real? Ananda replied, "World-honored one, although this cloth is a single entity, when the Tathagata ties it once, it gains the name of 1 knot. If you tie it 100 times, there are 100 knots. Since you've tied it 6 times, there are naturally 6 knots. We can't say there are 5 or 7. The Buddha nodded and said, "You observe carefully. The substance T of the cloth is the same, but the presence of knots creates a false sense of difference in what is originally 1. This is a key point. What was the Buddha symbolizing? He was symbolizing our 6 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Our true nature is like that smooth cloth. It is ultimately identical and pure. However, within this identity, because our minds become maddened and restless, we generate the seeing of the eyes and the hearing of the ears, forming 6 distinct modes of perception. This is ultimate difference born from ultimate identity." The Buddha then asked, "Since these 6 knots have a sequence, if I wanted to call the 6th knot the first knot, would that work?" Ananda shook his head. "No, world-honored one. As long as the knots exist, the sequence cannot be disordered. Even if I spent a lifetime debating it, I couldn't change their order." The Buddha then revealed the truth. Exactly, although these 6 knots appear different, if you trace them back to their source, they are made of nothing but a single cloth. Similarly, although your 6 senses function differently, they are all manifestations of the same original nature. This tells us that the world we see and the bodies we inhabit, though they appear infinitely varied, never actually leave the original essence. Chapter 3, The Root of Conflict. Where there are knots, there is self and other. Ananda then made a profound observation, "World-honored one, as long as these knots exist, right and wrong will spring up incessantly. Because there are knots, we develop a discriminating mind that says this knot is not that knot. If all these knots weren't tied today, even the one would not exist, so how could there be a 6th knot?" The Buddha praised him. Exactly. 6 unlocked, 1 vanished. That is the principle. The Buddha explained that the reason we feel the world is so real and so troublesome is that since time immemorial, our minds have been falsely generating perceptions in a state of madness. He used a vivid metaphor, fatigued vision producing dust. It is like your eyes being so exhausted from staring that you start seeing flowers dancing in the air. The void doesn't contain flowers. They are created by your diseased eyes. The mountains, rivers, people, the cycle of birth and death, and even our concepts of nirvana. The Buddha says these are all the stored flower images of a fatigued mind. Because your nature arose in madness without cause. You are like Yayadada in the story, who looked in the mirror, thought he had lost his head, and began running around frantically looking for it. Chapter 4. The key to untying. Don't pull sideways. Find the heart of the knot. Since we know this is a misunderstanding born of fatigued vision, how do we untie the knots? The Buddha performed a humorous demonstration. He took the knotted cloth and pulled it to the left with his left hand. He asked Ananda, "Can it be untied this way?" Ananda said, "No." The Buddha pulled to the right with his right hand. "Can it be untied now?" Ananda said, "Still no." The Buddha said, "See, I pull left and right, and yet it won't open. Ananda, how should I untie it?" Ananda replied, "World-honored one, you must untie it from the heart of the knot, Jigsaw, then it will disperse." This sentence is the core of liberation technology. When we face troubles, we usually pull left and right. If we dislike poverty, we pull toward wealth. If we dislike pain, we pull toward pleasure. But the Buddha tells you that as long as you are pulling on that knotted cloth, the knot only gets tighter. The true solution is to find the heart of the knot. What is the heart of the knot? It is the point where the knot was formed. Buddhism says all things arise from causes and conditions. The Buddha knows the fundamental causes of all worldly and world-transcending phenomena. Whether it is a drop of rain falling far beyond the Ganges, or why a pine tree is straight and the crow is black, he understands the cause and condition. Similarly, you must choose one of your 6 senses. The Buddha says you can start with whichever one you choose. If you can remove the karmic glasses from that sense organ, the external world, the dust images, will naturally vanish. Please note, this vanishing doesn't mean the mountains and rivers disappear physically. It means the distorted world you saw because you were wearing red-tinted glasses disappears. You finally see things as they truly are, no longer misled by false perceptions. This is called when all falsehood is extinguished. What remains but the truth? Chapter 5. The sequence of untying. First, emptiness of self. Then emptiness of phenomena. Finally, Ananda asked about the order, world-honored one. Can these 6 knots be untied simultaneously? The Buddha said, no. The knots were tied one by one, and they must be untied one by one in sequence. Although the substance of the 6 knots is the same, they were formed at different times, so they cannot be removed all at once. In the practice of cultivation, the Buddha gave a clear path. First step, initial liberation of the sense, realizing the emptiness of the person when calm. Whichever sense you start with, you will first discover that there is no real, permanent self. You will realize you are just a bundle of karma manifesting according to past actions, like dust floating in the void. When you no longer cling to this I, you achieve emptiness of the person. Second step, perfect clarity of emptiness, realizing the emptiness of phenomena for calm. As your practice deepens, your realization of emptiness becomes clearer, leading to the emptiness of phenomena. This means your attachment to all things and concepts is also liberated. Third step, neither emptiness nor non-emptiness, attaining the patience of non-arising Wushen Ren. A truly liberated person does not cling to emptiness either. If you insist that nature is empty in a nihilistic way, you extinguish the wonderful utility of your nature. The true Bodhisattva dwells in the wisdom of the self, knowing all things are empty while manifesting infinite, skillful uses through the power of vows. At this stage, you reach the patience of the non-arising of dharmas. After listening to today's dharma, perhaps we can give ourselves a little time. Stop pulling left and right at the dead knots in your life. Instead, try to settle your mind. Find the heart of the knot, and start by letting go of that grasping mind. Thank you for listening to this sharing of the Shurangama Dharma by the Buddha's Light Association of Australia. May you all, in the process of untying your knots in sequence, realize that originally smooth and stainless cloth of your own nature. Until next time.